I personally sold my soul for my music career to blow up, but I think I got scammed. I'm your host Yusuf, and these are 10 criminals who sold their soul to the devil. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Oh, and make sure to stick around for number 1 because this guy is, well, he's a lot. Number 10, Susan Atkins. Before we get started, for context, Atkins was a member of the Manson family cult. During the summer of 1969, Manson and his commune at Spawn's Ranch were attracting the attention of the police, who suspected them of auto theft and were suspicious of the high number of runaways. In an attempt to raise money to move away to the desert, Manson encouraged substance dealing. Purportedly, a botched substance scam by family member Charles Tex Watson led Manson to confront and shoot a man named Bernard Lotzapapa Crow. Manson believed he had slaughtered Crow, and he further believed Crow was a Black Panther. Neither was true. Nonetheless, Manson feared retaliation from the Black Panthers and pressured his followers for money. During this time, someone suggested that family acquaintance Gary Hinman had just inherited a large sum of money. Manson hoped Hinman could be persuaded to join the commune and contribute his purported new inheritance. Manson sent Atkins, Bobby Beausoleil, and Mary Brunner to Hinman's home on July 25, 1969. When Hinman said that he had not inherited any money, Beausoleil beat him severely. When Hinman still insisted that he had no inheritance, Manson showed up in person and swung at his head with a sword, slicing his face and severely cutting his ear. Manson directed Atkins and Brunner to stay behind and tend to Hinman's wounds. 2 days later, and after a phone call from Manson, Beausoleil and Hinman signed over the registrations to his cars and then fatally stabbed him twice. Beausoleil left a bloody handprint on the wall along with the words "political piggy," reportedly placed there in hopes of implicating the Black Panthers. Beausoleil was arrested on August 7, 1969, when he was found asleep in one of Hinman's vehicles. He was still wearing the blood-stained clothing he wore during the crime. The execution weapon was hidden in the tire well of the car's trunk. In 1977, Atkins published her autobiography, Child of Satan, Child of God, in which she recounted the time she spent with Manson and the family, her religious conversion, and her prison experiences. Number 9, the Keiller's Park Butchers. On the 23rd of July, 1997, at around 4:30 p.m., a guy discovered the body of a man laying face down at the base of an old water tower in Keiller's Park in downtown Gothenburg. Called on site, the police determined that the man had been shot twice with a pistol. The first bullet hit him in the back and went through his heart, while the second was fired to his head as he lay on the ground. A bag and a head cap were recovered beside the body. When the arrests were made on 15th and 18th of December 1997, the police discovered satanic altars in the homes of 2 suspects. A human skull was also found at one of their places, for which he was charged with possession of human parts. The 2 were members of a satanic organization called Misanthropic Luciferian Order, of which Vlad was one of his founders, and that, according to the police, never had more than a handful of followers. During their investigations, the police interrogated former members of the MLO who discovered the organization and narrated the cult ceremonies they had attended. Rituals included meditation, invocation of demons, and animal sacrifices. Number 8, the Ripper Crew. The Ripper Crew, or the Chicago Rippers, was a satanic cult and organized crime group composed of serial executioners, cannibals, and necrophiles. The crew consisted of Robin Gecht and 3 associates, Edward Spreitzer and brothers Andrew and Thomas Kokorales. They were suspected in the disappearance of 17 women in Illinois in 1981 and 1982, as well as the unrelated fatal shooting of a man in a random drive-by shooting. According to one of the detectives who investigated the case, Gecht made Manson look like a Boy Scout. The gang's first victim was 28-year-old Linda Sutton, who was abducted on May 23, 1981. 10 days later, her body was found in a field in Villa Park, Illinois. Her body had been mutilated and disfigured. It was almost a year before the gang struck again. On May 15, 1982, they abducted Lorraine Borowski, just as she was about to open the realtor's office where she worked. Her body was discovered 5 months later in a cemetery in Clarendon Hills. On May 29th, they abducted Shui Mock from Hanover Park. Her body was not found for 4 months. 2 weeks after they had abducted Mack, they picked up Angel York in their van, handcuffed her, and slashed her before throwing her out of the van, still alive. York's description of her attackers failed to produce any leads, and they eventually got caught, but these perps were truly heinous. Number 7, Christa Pike. Christa Gale Pike is an American convicted executioner and the youngest woman to be sentenced to execution in the United States during the post-Furman period. She was 20 when convicted of torture execution of her classmate Colleen Slemmer, which she committed at the age of 18. Here's the story. Pike lived a troubled life and dropped out of high school. She joined the Job Corps, a government program aimed at helping low-income youth by offering vocational training and career skills, and attended the now closed Job Corps Center in Knoxville, Tennessee. Pike began dating a man a year younger than her named Tataril Ship. Together, they developed interest in the occult and devil worship. Christa became jealous of her friend, university student 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer, who she thought was trying to steal her boyfriend from her. Friends of Slemmer denied the accusations. Along with friend Shadola Peterson, 18, Pike planned to lure Slemmer to an isolated abandoned steam plant near the University of Tennessee campus. On January 12, 1995, Pike, Ship, Peterson, and Slemmer signed out of the dormitory and proceeded to the woods, where Slemmer was told that they wanted to make peace by offering her some substances. Upon arrival at the secluded location, Slemmer was attacked by Pike and Ship, while Peterson acted as lookout. According to later court testimony, for the next 30 minutes, Slemmer was taunted, beaten, and slashed. A pentagram was carved in her chest. Finally, Pike smashed Slemmer's skull with a large chunk of asphalt, ending her, and Pike kept a piece of Slemmer's skull as a trophy. Number 6. Veronica Pietrobelli, Milena de Giambattista, and Ambra Gianasso. Maria Laura Minetti was an Italian Catholic sister from the Sisters of the Cross Institute. Mother Superior of a convent in Chiavenna that specialized in helping juvenile delinquents, she was stabbed to passing in a satanic sacrifice by 3 teenage girls on the night of June 6, 2000. Minetti's passing was declared a martyrdom by the Congregation for the Causes of Saints in 2020, and she was beatified on the 6th of June 2021, the 21st anniversary of her passing. Around 10 o'clock on the 6th of June 2000, Minetti left her convent in Chiavenna and went to a local public square to meet a girl who had recently requested an appointment via telephone. There, Minetti encountered the girl, Veronica Pietrobelli, and the latter's friends. The 3 girls lured Minetti down a nearby street to a secluded area outside a park where they ambushed her, stoning and shouting abuse at her before taking turns in stabbing her with a kitchen knife that De Giambattista was carrying. Minetti prayed as she was being attacked, asking God to forgive the girls before passing away after being stabbed 19 times. Even in her passing, Minetti was true to what she believed in. Hope she's up there somewhere. Number 5. Rod Ferrell. Roderick Justin Rod Ferrell is an American butcher and cult leader. He was a member of a loose-knit gang of teenagers from Murray, Kentucky known as the Vampire Clan. Ferrell claimed to be a 500-year-old vampire named Vasego, a character he created for himself after being obsessed with the role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade. It was his mother, Sandra Gibson, who first introduced this game to Rod. In 1998, Ferrell pleaded guilty to the double slaying of a couple from Eustis, Florida, becoming the youngest person in Florida on Demise Row at that time. Originally sentenced to execution, Ferrell's penalty has since been reduced to life imprisonment. On November 25, 1996, Naomi Ruth Queen and Richard Wendorf were found by their daughter, Jennifer Wendorf, beaten in their Eustis home. While 49-year-old Richard Wendorf was asleep on his couch and Ruth was in the shower, Ferrell and an accomplice, Howard Scott Anderson, had entered the home through the unlocked garage, picking up the weapon, a crowbar. Before Richard had even awakened, Ferrell beat him several times with it, fracturing both his skull and ribs, almost instantly knocking him out and ending him shortly after. When Ruth had found Ferrell and Anderson in the home moments later, Ferrell bludgeoned her, bashing her head with the crowbar. He claimed in his confession, however, that in his original plan he was going to allow Naomi Ruth to live, but she first attacked him by lunging at him and throwing a very hot cup of coffee on him, which angered him and made him change his mind, and so he removed her also. I guess a cup of coffee really changes a person. Number 4. Jason Massey. Massey was born on January 7th, 1973 in Ellis County, Texas. He was neglected and abused by his drink-addicted father and his substance-addicted mother. By his teens, he was a juvenile delinquent with a lengthy criminal record, mostly for torturing animals and stalking. His mother once committed him to a psychiatric hospital after discovering his journals, in which he detailed his fantasies about abuse and termination, his hero worship of Charles Manson, his avowed Satanism, and his strong desire to become a serial butcher. Massey was also known to decapitate and mutilate dogs, cats, and cows, preserving their skulls in coolers as trophies. On July 27, 1993, Massey ended 2 people, James Brian King and his stepsister, Christina Benjamin, in his hometown. He cut off Christina's head and hands and removed her intestines. He shot King twice in the head. On July 29th, both their bodies were found in a field near Tellico by a road worker. worker. There was evidence of mutilation and some of the body parts were missing, which have never been found. Number 3. Jarno Elg. Jarno Sebastian Elg is a Finnish Satanist portrayed as a devil worshipper by medias who was sentenced to life in prison for ending a 23-year-old man, eating some of the body parts, and instigating others to participate in a ritual that included torturing the victim while listening to songs from the Canadian Chronicle album by the Norwegian black metal band Ancient on November 21st, 1998 in Hyvinka. Elg's partners were Terry Johanna Tervishanka from Järvenpää, a 20-year-old man from Montsala, and another from Kerava. Jarno Elg was tracked by the police and sentenced to life in prison. The Hyvinka District Court in southern Finland sentenced the accomplices to 8 years and 6 months in prison. It was said that the 3 people were strongly influenced by Satanism. The court declared most of the details of the case sealed for 40 years. For this reason, only a limited amount of information is available. The criminal investigation started when a leg was found from a dump site, thus giving the name dump site execution to the case. The case was generally described as the most gruesome ending in Finnish history. After the sentences, the media tried to raise up black metal as a scapegoat for the happenings in Hyvinka, whereas the I Return to Darkness fanzine fully supports the ending of Hyvinka and would like to hail in honor all those who participated in it. An article printed by the Norwegian Slayer fanzine stated that it's amazing how Satanists are always so full of strength and never forget to remind us that the weak must be weeded out, yet when someone does actually weed out some weak hypocrite, they are the first to mourn in public. Number 2. Sara Aldrete. Sara Maria Aldrete Villarreal is a convicted Mexican Terminator who headed a substance smuggling and human sacrifice cult with Adolfo Constanzo. The members of the cult, dubbed by the media as the narco-Satanists, called her the godmother with Constanzo as the godfather. The cult was involved in multiple ritualistic endings in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, including the removal of Mark Kilroy, an American student slaughtered in Matamoros in 1989. Constanzo, Aldrete, and the rest of the cult went on the run when detectives discovered their shrine. They found human hair, brains, teeth, and skulls at the site of the executions. Eventually, the police found their hideout in Mexico City on May 6, 1989. After a shootout, Constanzo and one of his accomplices were shot and ended by another member of the cult, apparently at Constanzo's behest. Aldrete was convicted of criminal association in 1990 and jailed for 6 years. In a second trial, she was convicted of several of the executions at the cult's headquarters and sentenced to 30 years in prison. If Aldrete is ever released from prison, American authorities plan to prosecute her for the execution of Mark Kilroy. Number 1. Peter Niers. Truly saving the worst for last. Peter Niers was a German executioner and bandit who was executed on the 16th of September 1581 in Newmarket, some 40 kilometers from Nuremberg. Based on confessions extracted from him and his accomplices under torture, he was convicted of 544 executions. Allegedly, the remains were used in magical rituals. He was believed to be an extremely powerful black magician with many supernatural abilities and for acts of cannibalism. Information about Niers is based on contemporary ballads, true crime reports, and official warrants circulating, as well as the aforementioned confessions extracted under torture. It is unknown whether he actually did end 544 people or whether this was just a confession under torture. Peter Niers was one of the leading figures in a loosely knit network of robber butchers roaming the countryside, a network constantly changing in its composition, sometimes joining together for major raids, at other times splitting up into smaller groups to pursue robberies and terminations on a smaller scale over different areas. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. On Crime Time, by the way.